All right, this story comes out of Florida. They didn't check a bin for 20 years. Outraged Florida family shocked to learn the skull and spine of their family member was discovered decades after his death by medical examiner. May 24th, 2024. The family of Cedric McFadden, a man robbed and murdered 20 years ago in Florida, can no longer keep quiet and is taking legal action after discovering some of his remains weren't buried. In February, the family received an alarming call from the medical examiner's office that McFadden's skull and a part of his spine had been discovered in a bin at the Lake County Medical Examiner's office. The disclosure sent shockwaves through the family, leading to more grief and outrage and a second funeral for their deceased loved one nearly 2 decades later. McFadden, 24 at the time of his death, was fatally shot during a robbery near Okalaka, Florida by David M. Lee, who admitted to the murder and led police to his partially submerged body in a pond in Bellevue. The medical examiner's office conducted the autopsy and then released his badly decomposed body to a funeral home for burial. Due to the state of his body, the family chose not to have a viewing at the funeral and were unaware that his skull and part of his spine were missing. They found her son Cedric Wayne McFadden's skull and a part of his spine in a bin in their building nearly 20 years after they were allegedly released to Summers Funeral Home in Okalaka, Florida on June 15th, 2005. Simon announced this week that family will file a lawsuit by November 3rd against the Lake County Medical Examiner's Office for intentional infliction of emotional distress and interference with a body. The family was additionally concerned by what they call the lack of proper records and the complete failure to comply with state policies in handling McFadden's remains. It is the most bizarre case the attorney has ever worked on. 20 years before the medical examiner's office realized they didn't release all of my client's son's remains. They didn't check a bin for 20 years. You cannot make this stuff up, Simon wrote on social media. In a press conference on May 13th, McFadden's sister spoke out about the horrific discovery. We're hoping to bring it justice, said Jacqueline Forshee, adding, I'm not sure if anyone else has been affected by this. The medical examiner needs to look at the process and procedures of how they release remains and also informing the families better. It needs to be a tighter process, she stated. Forshee said when the chilling call came in on February 11th, the representative from the state medical examiner's office asked to speak to McFadden's mother, Ruth Forbes. The two were at church together, and Forshee said they felt rushed to decide what to do with the skeletal remains. It took the bandage off of a wound. Obviously, it caused a lot of stress, she explained. We had to go through a burial twice, which I feel was unnecessary. Rather than unearthing McFadden's casket, the family chose to place the newly discovered remains in a vault near the original burial site. Why didn't they just put his skull and his spine in something and bury it at the original, the first location? I mean, you don't have to dig up the complete grave. Just put it right on top of the existing grave. I think that would have been the best thing to do instead of having his body parts separated in two different graves. But that's their family, so they decide what happens to their family in the end. Standards for death investigation in the U.S. vary by state, but in Florida, all medical examiners are required to be physicians trained to perform autopsy, usually for forensic pathologists or pathology residents who are directly supervised. It's unclear how such a mistake was made, and the medical examiner has not yet provided an explanation. Well, here's my theory on what happened. These people are sick. They've done this for years. You know, during the lynchings, they would take body parts and keep them as souvenirs in their home. They passed around Nat Turner skull for years. I don't believe this was a mistake. I believe this was intentional. How can you not? How can you forget to put a person's skull and part of their spine with the rest of the remains to be buried? Yeah, I hope they win this lawsuit. They should win this lawsuit because it seems like an open and shut case. They didn't get all their loved ones' remains. And whatever criminal charges that can be brought against, if the person is still alive, whoever the medical examiner was at the time, he probably need to have some criminal charges against him because that's some sick behavior that he displayed. You keep someone's skull and spine in a drawer somewhere for 20 years and nobody not know about it. That's intentional. That really is intentional. You know, they keep them little trophies. That's some sick behavior if you ask me. All right, I'm gonna drop this here. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll catch you on the next one.